Welcome to 1000 PS, welcome to a small introduction of Honda's CB1000 Hornet, and this is specifically the SP version. Now, you're not just going to get my kind of little summary of the SP, you're also going to get a verdict of multiple members of the 1000 PS team. And that varies in skill, age, level, height, weight and ability. And now we've just done 2 days here in Austria in the perfect scenario, kind of like the roads that this bike was designed for. It's completely standard, apart from we fitted Bridgestone rubber just to make it equal and level playing field. The biggest surprise, the biggest bit, I think the biggest kind of unique selling point of this bike, despite the fact that it has a 157 PS engine from a 2017 Fireblade engine, apart from that big power and big torque, is the price. It's just over £10,000 in the UK. How Honda have managed to push this out the showrooms for just over £10,000 is phenomenal. Above the base bike, we get 5 horsepower more. We get Brembo stylemas, we get the Öhlins rear shock, and we get the quick shifter. I absolutely love this bike. The power is just perfect for the road. It's got kind of smooth power delivery low down, it's got drive through the mid-range, and then it's got a real rasp towards the top of the power. Revs on to 11,000 RPM, and you can hear the exhaust note change. It's got a real drive to it, a real grunt to it. It's got completely standard exhaust, but the exhaust tone definitely changes at around 5,000 to 6,000 RPM. The handling is reasonably light and reasonably agile. Honda quote that it's 212 kilograms wet. We weighed it, they're lying. It's 212.5 kilograms. So we'll let them off 0.5 kilograms. But it feels lighter than it actually is. When you sat on it, the tank is actually quite wide. The bike feels quite wide, like a street fighter should do, in my opinion. But it is really agile, it's really sporty, you can really push the handling. I've ridden this bike several times and I've only just fractionally tickled the pegs, but I can ride really aggressively up until that point. Could you take this bike to a track? Not a problem, 100%. I would take this bike tomorrow to any track in the UK and in fact in Europe, because it's got the power, it's got the legs, it's got the grunt, it can make it on the straights. The only downside when you go to the track is the kind of slightly difficult to use switchgear and dash and the very basic rider aids. Most bikes in this class have a 6-axis IMU, which is basically the thing that's on your phone that makes the screen turn and flip, so you know which way round you are. And the 6-axis IMU knows the lean angle, the pitch and the yaw of the bike, and the rider aids act accordingly. And the Honda hasn't got that. It's just got a very simple traction control system. And when that traction control kicks in, it kicks in hard and the reintervention is quite slow. So what happens is when you come over a crest in, say, 3rd or 4th gear and the front wheel comes slightly off the ground, the front wheel tells the back wheel that it's going at a different speed. It cuts the power, the front comes down, it's quite aggressive. And then when the power kicks back in, it's like, are we having power? Are we having power? And then away we go. It's just not as refined as other bikes in this category. A simple way to get rid of that is once you get on the bike, is to switch it off, which I do most times. It takes a couple of seconds to do. You have to go within the menu to switch it off. But once you've done that, off you go and just enjoy raw power without any rider aids. You've still got ABS, but again, that's conventional ABS. It might sound a little bit intimidating to have nearly, 157 PS with no traction control, but it finds power really well. It feels like the wheelbase is longer than it is, or that the swinging arm is quite long, because it really finds traction really, really well. Braking is really superb with the Brembo stylemas, really strong. Around town it's nice and soft, nice and easy to use, but when you want to push it and you really push the handle in, there's no fading. It's really strong, it's real powerful brakes, and it doesn't overly compensate the front. The front fully adjustable forks are more than capable of dealing with the braking power of these stylemas and the performance of the engine. Is it worth the extra money over the standard model, which is £1,000 cheaper? That will be an interesting discussion below, because for the £1,000 you get the upgraded brakes, you get the different colours, you get 5 more horsepower, quick shifter and the Öhlins shock. For £1,000 that seems about right. When the bike is just over £10,000, that seems like a bit of a bargain. But that's my opinion on the new Hornet from Honda. For me, it was a little bit of a surprise when I rode it for the first time, because Honda always make really good naked bikes. And I'm going back to the 900 Hornet, the 600 Hornet, even when they had carbs. But they were always kind of like a little bit sensible and a little bit mature. Where this SP feels the most kind of radical Hornet ever, the most immature, the most fun, the most agile, the most sporty, and it's quite raucous. Once you get rid of that traction control and slightly intrusive rider aids, then it is such a fun bike. But that's my opinion. Let's see what the rest of the team thought of the new Hornet.
With the Hornet SP, I have to admit, I was initially a bit disappointed by the engine when comparing it directly. But that's also because by now, I've become such a model rider. I'm always riding properly through towns, and in 70 and 100 zones, I always ride the way you're supposed to. But the moment you start riding a bit more irresponsibly and let those 150 horses loose a little, you suddenly notice in the rearview mirror that it is actually stronger than the other bikes. And that's just the thing. If you're just gliding through the streets, then of course no one really needs all that horsepower. In that scenario, you're more likely to notice a more aggressive throttle response or some punch down low. But the Honda has this fantastic quality, a majestic, confident riding feel combined with a very, very good and potent engine. And the whole bike, overall, is kind of unreasonable. I mean, if you trust Honda with something like this, this is a proper street fighter, a real hooligan for the streets. With the Honda, you've got the sportiest rear shock. Sure, all of them have some kind of nice Öhlins, but the Honda has the TTX in the rear. That's the highest spec shock. And the engine is not your typical cuddly naked bike engine. For example, off the line, coming from down low, it feels less spectacular than something like the Yamaha or KTM. But once you let that Honda rev a little, that's when you start to feel the power. Because it's not geared as tall as the Fireblade, it actually delivers. And overall, it's a bit of a wild engine. You've got a sporty chassis, quality brakes that are really great. I think compared to the others, definitely one of the better setups. You can brake really hard. The only thing you need to be mindful of is the price tag. Yes, we're talking about a 1,000 here, but price-wise, it sits more in the upper middle class. And so it's competing with bikes that have like 120, 130 horsepower. But price-wise, that's where it's positioned. So it's a little unfair. It's like you're going to middle school and then heading down to the elementary schoolyard and beating up the kids there. But yeah, that's just how it is in terms of price. In my opinion, the CB1000 Hornet SP is a major success. It's the first iteration. And when the first version already feels like, man, this bike's been around for a while, like it's already mature, that's always something really, really great. And I think that's the start of a story. So I believe it's going to stick around. Honda really nailed it with this first launch. With the CB750, the front end felt a bit vague to me. I wasn't too into that. But with the CB1000 Hornet SP, there's really nothing I'd complain about, even riding it very aggressively. There's nothing where I'd say I have to make compromises. It's just a really fascinating, very combative, and on top of that, incredibly affordable motorcycle. This bike is the kind of thing where I'd say it's not meant negatively at all. It feels like a riding school bike. In the best sense, it gives you a lot of confidence. It forgives small mistakes. The shifting is super smooth and relaxed. That really impressed me. What I did notice though, even though it's the most powerful engine here, is that down low, it's missing a bit of punch. I'd say under 6,000, 7,000 revs. It's a bit underwhelming. I was expecting more there. The Honda Hornet surprised me by far the most today. I was honestly surprised by how nicely the throttle responds and how much torque it already has down low for a four-cylinder. It's not just focused on top-end power. There's real mid-range punch here, and I really enjoyed that. So, in the engine category, the Honda Hornet really surprised me in a positive way. Even though it doesn't have an IMU, I honestly didn't miss it today. I had a blast in the Hornet saddle. I think it's a really easy bike to ride. You sit on it, and from both an ergonomic perspective and how everything works, that famous accessibility we talk about, it's totally there. You get on it and you instantly know how to ride it. There's nothing mysterious, and I think that's part of why you're able to ride it fast, because it gives you enough feedback to know exactly what you need to do on the bike.
Since the route today was very twisty and didn't really have long straight country road sections, I think I wasn't able to fully unlock everything it has to offer. I think this bike is definitely a candidate where I'm like, man, my fingers are itching. I'd really love to try this on a racetrack, because I think there's so much potential here that I probably didn't even tap into today. It sort of crept up on me, but I don't think I was able to fully exploit it. And you definitely notice that there's some serious raw power behind it. There's a real punch that comes in, and it's not like everything has to be ultra smooth, though it still is. It's a top-notch motorcycle. I didn't have a single negative experience, never felt overwhelmed, but it's definitely a very strong, more aggressive contender.
The engine of the CB1000 Hornet is really well done in terms of how it runs. It has barely any vibration. Even at higher revs, you don't feel any harsh vibrations. That's been done really well. But it does need at least 6,000 RPM to really come alive. So especially for a naked bike, I'd wish for a bit more torque down low at lower revs. Once it revs out, then the power is really there. On the street, there's more than enough for what you actually need. It really delivers well. What you do notice, especially on the racetrack or supermoto track, where you're mostly riding in first gear, is that it's a bit tricky during throttle transitions. On the road, that barely matters because you're using higher gears and lower revs, so throttle transitions don't come up as often. But on the supermoto track, where you're riding almost exclusively in first and quickly opening and closing the throttle because the turns come up fast, that's when you notice it. The throttle pickup on the Honda is a bit abrupt, it kicks in hard and then shuts off just as quickly. The gearing is also on the longer side. First gear goes up to around 125, 130 kilometers per hour. It's not like some hyper nakeds that go up to 150 or 160 in first, but still it's a bit too tall for my taste, especially when you don't have much low-end torque to play with. It would be nice if it were geared a bit shorter. Otherwise, the brakes work flawlessly, both on the track and on the street. The only drawback is that the ABS tuning is very conservative and doesn't allow for strong deceleration. It's not the brake system reaching its limit, it's the conservative ABS logic that's the limiting factor here. Ergonomics are well executed. Even at around 1.80 m with fairly long legs, I fit fine. The knee angle isn't too aggressive, so you can ride it for a longer stretch without a problem. The upper body sits comfortably too, so there's nothing stopping you from doing longer stints on this bike. The suspension and the overall ride stability are very well done. You always get good feedback and the bike never gets twitchy. Even in really slow corners like those you take at 20 or 30 kilometers per hour, it never feels overly agile. That gives you a lot of confidence, which really pays off.
So there's some interesting opinions for the rest of the team. For me, it comes down to the fact that you've got essentially a naked 2017 Honda Fireblade and a naked, attractive chassis with 157 PS for just over 10 grand. To me, that's a bit of a no-brainer. Okay, it doesn't come in traditional Honda colours, but it looks great in black and gold. But it'd be interesting to see what you think. Do you think it's priced correctly? Do you like the colours? Do you like the styling? Or were you expecting something a bit more sensible? If you want any more questions, or if you've got anything technical like seat height or actual weight, then please fire some questions below. Me or one of the team will get back to you as soon as we can.